work for Into Games. If you haven't already heard of us, we do a lots of work with helping the games industry become more accessible and inclusive. You can visit our website, which is a great resource for anyone looking to get some game career advice, information, and inspiration. You can find us at www.intogames.org. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, which is at IntoGamesHQ, for updates and news. Also, we are running a one-day career fair event on the 29th of July, so you definitely want to get involved. We are currently confirmed partnered with Playground Games, Avalanche, Hangar 13, Playground Payload Studio, so it should be a great time, and we'll be sending out an email at the end or post-event with more information on how you can get involved with that. All right, so now on to the event. This event has been created especially to help share the amazing opportunity for work at the award-winning game studio like Splash Damage, and perfect for anyone looking to get a job in games. So stay with us to find out more. Today we'll be hearing from four fantastic Splash Damage team members who have kindly offered their time to talk more about their organization, the job they do, and how they got here. But before I get on to that, we have a lot of stuff going on at our Discord. If you're not already there, head to the Into Games Discord to chat to our speakers and other brilliant members of Splash Damage. Also, in some of our Into Games team members and our lovely wider community will also be on hand to offer general career advice. You can join via www.intogames.org/Discord. You should be able to see the banner across the screen at the moment. We have set up a brand new category. We're hiring Splash Damage, and you'll find the following temporary channels to pose your questions and get involved in the conversation during and post-event. So these channels are general, technical, creative, and production. So make sure you get involved, and let's jump into the event. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Cinzia Musio, who is the Diversity and Inclusion Advisor for Splash Damage. Cinzia will be saying hello and talking about who Splash Damage are as an organization and a little more about their diversity schemes and current job opportunities. So, Cinzia, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So I know that you have a bit of a presentation planned.
Yeah, I have a presentation that's queued up where I'm just going to be able to introduce you a little bit to Splash Damage and to what we do in terms of diversity and inclusion so that everyone has a chance to have a look at it. And here we go. Yeah, I'm just kind of going to walk you through this now. Why does Splash Damage exist? So Splash Damage is a studio where about 350 people at the moment with 40 nationalities. And it was created by three friends making mods together, basically in the room. And they ended up making games. We've been open for 20 years now, so it's been kind of like a while. Something that's really interesting about Splash is that all the founders were self-taught. So none of them went to university. And here we are 20 years later. We've won awards for the games that we've published and for the work that we do at the studio. One of the big things that has always been important to our founders, and that's kind of continued through the story of the games that we make, is that we are an employee-first studio. That's kind of our approach. So that means that we care a lot about well-being, about work-life balance, and we recently just a couple of weeks ago, placed on the top 50 companies to work for in the UK. And the studio was bought by Tencent just before Christmas, and they're famously hands-off. So it means that we're really allowed to, they're giving us support and we're allowed to just do what we want to do and follow our culture and our own values the way that we want to. And we're now working on several unannounced projects, and we'll have more to say about them later this year. So that's an exclusive for all of you. So just a quick overview on what our games look like. You will have heard of quite a few of them, I imagine. So we've worked on a really quite diverse type of games, and we've really touched on a lot in the industry, and yeah, really great games overall. So those are our company values. That's something that I really wanted to share with all of you. Our studio is really rooted in those values. So as we're kind of like, going through interviews, etc., those are the kind of things that we're going to be looking in people. So people that will be able to kind of like show that kind of trust, that will be able to do that teamwork and work with people around them, that are always looking to learn and to improve themselves, that are, decisive people, that are just kind of like, trying to work with people around them in that sense, and people that are solutions driven. So rather than kind of bring in problems, we like people to bring a solution and see how we can work around it. Um, and so just to touch on diversity and inclusion, it's something that's really, really important to the studio. I was actually the first person in the UK games industry to become an official diversity and inclusion advisor. There is three of us at the moment, in the industry, and so it was really great to be able to have that kind of, to be able to lead the way effectively. So we have employee resource groups at the studio, and these are very much, they're employee driven. So they're created by staff for staff. And the idea is that the studio reports to them rather than them reporting to the studio. So if there's any improvements that they want to see within Splash, or anything that they kind of like want to work on, that they want us to work on, this is something that we support them, and that very much is what my role enables them to do. And so that means that as part of employee resource groups, we do a ton of events. We're in the middle of Pride at the moment. We've got, happening at the same time as this, we've got a one-shot queer D&D. Next week we're having a drag show, and that's kind of like part of Pride. We had a few other events earlier in the month, and we try to have a lot of those kind of like social groups. So those are groups that are there and open for everyone, and it's a great place to kind of like try and find like-minded people. But on top of that, we've got, like sports group, we've got like game specific groups and all that kind of thing. So there's always a ton of opportunities to socialize with people around the studio, and that really hasn't slowed down, in the past year and a half. So it's not something that's been focused on doing it within the studio while we were in office. It's something that we've made sure to keep going while we're working from home. And so the diversity and inclusion core pillars, these are the kind of like, these are the ways that we drive diversity and inclusion at the studio. So everything that we do will always be data driven. We'll work from a place of doing awareness and education, so making sure that we bring people along with us on the journey. We work on hiring and retention. So that means, doing these kind of things where we speak to people to, try and bring as wide a variety of people into the studio, but also making sure that when people do come into the studio, that we've got a structure set in place to allow people to succeed and to really grow and flourish, and then transparency. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show this. Everything that we do with D&I very much comes from a place of transparency, and that means sharing everything and kind of like not shying away from mistakes that we do, and from learning from things such as our values, as I was mentioning earlier. So yeah, this is kind of like a quick brief overview. I'm just gonna go into this page. This is what we're talking about today, really. We've got a ton of roles opening tomorrow. So you'll be starting to see them on like popping up on social medias and everything. There's like different ways there to kind of like get involved. If you follow us on social media, you'll be able to see when things happen, and you can also subscribe to a newsletter where we will be sending an email when it goes live, and that's splashdamage.com/newsletter. And so we can put that in the chat. And yeah, so that's going to be, that's going to be a great way for you to get involved. And all of these roles will have several of them available. So there isn't just one of each, which means this, there's going to be a ton of opportunities for people to get involved. And the idea with all of those roles is that you don't have to have a degree. You don't have to be out of the top university in order to be able to get in. We've put the barrier of entry as low as possible because we want as many people as possible to be able to join us. And we really want to diversify the people that we get in. Because if we only get people that have gone through the same university and have done, the same path, that means that when it comes to problem solving, for example, we're not going to have that kind of diversity that we really need in order to be able to grow and evolve and kind of like get us in the place that we want to be in. So yeah, that's kind of the brief overview of Splash Damage. I have some time for questions, so.
Well, I mean, that is one heck of a sales pitch for a game studio, honestly. Like that sounds incredible. I am totally up for dragging it up and queer D&D. Like I am there. Um so I mean, you just briefly shown us like the roles that are available, of which there are so many. So, what we sort of want to know is, what do you look for in a great junior hire?
Yeah, so as I kind of like briefly mentioned, degrees are not the end all be all for us. The people that founded the company didn't have a degree; they were all self-taught. So we're hoping to see that keeping going. Like we want to see that success replicated across the industry.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of like when you're looking at applying and when we're looking at people, we're going to be looking at a strong portfolio, like a personal work that's going to be highlighting what skills you can show, and that's going to go a really long way. The other thing is to like highlight your the soft skills is what we call. So that's something that that's really important to us, and which you've seen with the values. So we will be looking for people that do great teamwork. We'll be looking for people that that are really great at like that idea of taking feedback and rolling with it, and just like collaborating with people around them. Those are the kind of things that are going to be so much more valuable than a great degree. We very much come from a place of we don't want the top star kind of candidates. We want people that want to grow with us, that want to that want to grow themselves and really like bring that along on the journey. And yeah, those are really going to be the kind of like big things that we want. It's more about like you bringing in your personality, you bringing in yourself into the role, and having those key skills as you look through the job descriptions, like finding things that you can show that you've got, and just like showing that in your CV and in your cover letter.
Yeah, just bedazzle it. Just make it
Yeah,
all bedazzled and
flashy.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Put the
literally
flash
made
animation.
I made a pixel character of myself for my
Did
application, and that
you?
worked. So
That is adorable. Oh my goodness, you have to show us sometime. Like that
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I mean, so, what you look for in that, but then also, do you have any tips for sort of nailing the application to Splash Damage?
Yeah, so like making sure that you know the studio. I've given you a bunch of great tips with this presentation. Just
Mm,
like, like try to kind of like hit those key things. Like the values are on our website and you'll find like all the information that I've given, you'll find that replicated. But having those kind of like key things on your CV, on your cover letter, like places where we can kind of find that you're gonna be, someone that's gonna thrive in our studio is gonna be really important. Having a portfolio and showing that you've got like history of having worked in a team, or like if you have games that you've worked on, like giving us that like that HEO or something for those small projects, and whether it is like a game jam or something that you've done at school or something like that. Those are going to be great things that we can look at and like try to figure out how that would apply to what we do. So like looking at the games that we're working on, and trying if you have portfolio, trying to really highlight the style that are going to kind of like be close to what we do, because that means that we can look at your profile and be like, this is going to be easy effectively
yeah.
to get you in. And then when you get to the interview stage, make sure that you've got questions prepared for us. I think that it's always really valuable when people do interviews to be asked about like the very important things, like what is important to you in a job. Like, we need to convince you about investing your time in us as much as you need to
Mm.
convince us on it. And so, like, showing that you understand what you want with your career. And if you don't, like, have questions ready about that, like, saying, I'm not sure what the long term is, but here's what I would like to hit. And kind of like, being ready with those things will be super valuable. And then just like try to show your personality and try to show yourself. Because if you're trying to almost put a persona of someone that you think we will like, and then you come into the studio and potentially spend the next 10 years with us, which is what we're hoping for, right?
Yeah.
We don't want you to have to pretend to be someone else that whole time. So come in and like put yourself into your CV, put yourself into the interview, and that's something that you'll be able to take with you as we work together.
Oh. And if you could, please, for the chat again, what was the website again to sign up to the newsletter? Because that's where everybody can find all the details, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it will be live. So if you follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, I guess, um, and yeah, those you're gonna find the jobs, like we're gonna post on it. But if you want to get an email, like that will be the kind of first place that it goes. It's splashdamage.com/newsletter.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I think that you have definitely, I think everybody in the chat is just going to be like, I'm applying now,
I hope so.
Oh, of course. And I just want to thank you so much for giving your time and also for sharing all this great information with us.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone has any more questions, do feel free to. I'll be on the Discord through the event and afterwards, so you can message me on there, or find me on social media and DM me, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
No. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, just as a quick reminder as well about our Int Games Discord, as you know, there are people in there who are answering questions, especially from Splash Damage in our We're Hiring section, where you can speak directly to Splash Damage team members right now. There are 4 different channels focusing on different areas. So you don't have to worry about like applying in certain sections. You can go to the specific area that you want help with and go right to it. And those are technical, creative, production, and general, which basically covers sort of like everything else. Splash Damage's junior role list will also go live tomorrow. So definitely use this opportunity on Discord to figure out what you need in order to apply and make sure that you're really ready to go. All right. And now I have another guest for you. This is Ming Treganing. Hi, did I get that right?
No,
I'm hoping
you
I
did.
did.
No, that was good.
Fantastic.
That was good.
A
I'm
plus.
impressed. Most people cannot pronounce my last name. Yeah, I'm Ming
I did look it
Gunning.
up. I must admit, I did look it up before this to just make sure, which I always do with my guests because I don't want to be that person who, you know. But
Yeah,
welcome.
I do the exact same thing when we're interviewing people at Splash Damage, and I see a name, and I'm like, I am not sure how to pronounce that. It's like this is where the internet has just become one of the best things in the world. You can just Google this stuff,
Yeah.
and there'll be a pronunciation guide for it. The only time it gets really tricky is when it's like, this is how you pronounce it if they're from this place, and this is how you pronounce it if they're from this place, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, they like, which country do they come from? Check their CV, see if that tells me, like, or just try and figure it out,
Just
or like
guess.
worst case, pick the one that I think it's likely to be, and then get them to correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly. But yeah, no, thank you so much, Ming, for coming on. You are the lead gameplay programmer.
Yes, I am the
Um,
gameplay programmer
it's
for my
awesome.
sins.
Oh, bless you. But yeah, I was wondering if maybe you could give a bit of an overview, like a very brief description of sort of what you do and what your role entails.
Yeah, sure. So my role breaks down into a couple of different parts. So the lead part is I'm in charge of a small team of other gameplay programmers. So quite a bit of my day is dedicated to them and to ensuring that they're able to do the best job that they can possibly do. So if I can clear problems out of their way, then it means that they can just focus on doing an awesome job of making awesome games. The other aspect of being a lead is it means I'm involved at a high level in projects to determine things like long-term planning, roadmaps, high-level estimation, and higher level things like the overall system architecture of how are all these things going to work together, so that I can give like more information and advice to my team on how best to proceed with all of the cool things that they're doing. And then the last part of my job being a gameplay programmer is the part of my job that uh, I've been doing the longest and I enjoy the most. Well, no, I really enjoy being a lead. Helping people be awesome is really cool. But I like
It's like,
I
no, it is actually really cool what I do. Yeah.
I absolutely love my job. It's the best thing in the world. I wouldn't change what I do for anything. So being a gameplay programmer, I get to work on the systems that make a game rather than being banking software or whatever. It's like I work on all the little nitty gritty that the player is going to be interacting with, and a it's a lot of it is just solving complicated problems by writing cool bits of code and writing systems and functions to do all the cool things that we need to do. And it's awesome and I love it.
It's like lead programmer just being cool.
Yeah. And being cool and just enjoying solving like weird and complicated problems and getting to do awesome things. It's like people come to you with all of these crazy ideas and go, how do we get all of this into a game? And my job is to figure that out and make it happen. And it's great fun.
Yeah, really rewarding when you do get it really right, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the best things is like internally when like you work on something and you put it in the game and then we have like internal play tests regularly, and seeing people enjoying something that you have made is awesome. And then like when the game finally goes live and the whole world gets to see it, you know, seeing just people enjoying something that you've made, and like especially if they mention some particular thing that you worked on where they're like, oh, these guns are really cool, and you're like, I made the guns, yes.
I made that happen.
Yeah, it's like when someone's like, oh, shooting this weapon is really satisfying, or driving this vehicle is like super cool, and you're like, yes, I did part of that. Yes. It's the nicest feeling in the world. I mean, there's always going to be people that say negative things and don't like stuff, but that's fine. Everyone's, not every game is for everyone. I mean, I personally just hate racing games, but I just don't play them.
Yeah, easy. It's easy done, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I want to know sort of about your path. Like, what was your path into this role? Where did you sort of start out?
So I've been in the industry for 20 years, but where I would say I started was when I was 8 years old. I got given a Sinclair ZX Spectrum 48K, slightly secondhand. I think it had been one of my cousins first, but they'd never really got to grips with it as a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And that was when I discovered that programming was a thing. Like it was
like, thank you, cousin.
Yeah, you could get these magazines, and in the magazine was basically just a list of code that you had to type in, and then when you typed it in, you had a simple game that ran and worked. And that just blew my mind away. I was just like 8 years old, and I was just like, this is the thing that like you can do. And so yeah, and that kind of just shaped the rest of my life. I was just like, okay, this is the thing that you could, when other kids are like, I want to be a fireman, I was like, I want to be a games programmer. So yeah, ended up at university doing a computer science degree, and then that was very cool. I really enjoyed university. Did a lot of modding in my spare time, which was how I got to actually understand more about the game side of programming. And then when I finished university, I applied to every single games company I could find until one hired me.
Yay!
Yeah, and that was a great feeling. That was just the first day of just being in the industry was great. Third day was slightly less great when I almost got myself fired, but
Oh no. That happens too. That happens.
That was fine. It's like explained the situation, got okay, this is cool, and just like got on with things, and it was good. And yeah, it's been awesome ever since. Ups and downs along the way, but I have never at any single point regretted being in this industry. It's a lot of fun.
Some people are asking to elaborate. Another time, everyone.
Do they want to know what I did that almost got me fired?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
not unless you really are willing to share. That's absolutely fine.
The PlayStation 2 had like literally, I think, come out that day, and someone went out and bought one and brought it back to the office. And so each of us like started having a play on it to see what it was like. And then like other people drifted away, and I was in that gaming zone.
You just
and I was
leave?
just like just carried on playing for about like an hour straight until like the technical director of the studio, it was a very small studio, it's like 20 people, like just came over and tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Are you gonna do any work this afternoon?" And I was like, "I'm really sorry. I was like completely in the zone." Like just when you're playing a game and you're just like, and your brain has just lost all track of like time or where you are. Like, oh yeah, I'm actually supposed to be doing a job here, not just like playing a game. And so he had a little chat with me about it, and he was like, and we sorted it out, and it was fine. I went back to doing work. Bought my own PlayStation 2 the next week, and it was
so that you could have your time at home. Yeah. So for anyone in chat, know that playing games at work in your free time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's fine if it's like,
if it's for your work.
Yeah, if it's for your work, we do scheduled playtests of the games that we're working on, and
exactly.
So like, and we do scheduled playtests of other people's games to get an understanding of like, what makes those games good. So how can we learn from that and things like that? But just sitting and playing on a game.
I have to ask, like, what game was it?
It was
makes all the difference.
SSX, the snowboarding game.
Oh my gosh, yes! Oh, I loved SSX. Oh, that is a good game to get sucked into, honestly.
Yeah, that was far too of an addictive game for it to be launched with the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, absolutely, completely. And so, I mean, getting on to Splash Damage. So how long have you been at Splash Damage for now?
So I've been at Splash Damage for a little over 6 years. It's been awesome. So when I first started at Splash Damage, I started working on Dirty Bomb. Like that was really cool. Worked on a few different things since then that didn't actually ever get released, which is another thing that you get used to. It's a bit weird when you first join the industry, the idea of like you might spend a year working on something and then it just goes away because like either it turned out actually that wasn't a good idea, or whoever was paying you to do it decides that they don't want to pay you to do that anymore, or any of the other myriad of reasons that means a game doesn't actually ship. And did some work when we worked on Halo. I did some work on that. That was very cool. Look at like as a nerdy programmer, like getting to see like there is code still in there from like the early 90s that was written way back when they first started working on the Halo franchise.
Oh my gosh.
And just going through it and just being like, all right. Like I just it's amazing just looking
it's like
at
the Holy Grail. It's like
it's like a weird form of archaeology. You're looking in and going, oh my god, how on earth did this work? And just like, just being like, it's like finding caveman tools inside the code and just being like, oh, okay. So that was very good. And and the current project that I'm on hasn't been announced, so I'm not allowed to talk about that one. But it's incredibly cool, and I am loving every minute of it.
Oh, and do you have any advice for anyone who is looking into getting into programming?
Yes, just get stuck in and get your hands dirty is the best approach. There's a lot of wonderful tools freely available, like Unity, Unreal Engine 4, that you can just download. There's a load of tutorials online that you can just go and play around with. There's like various sites that you can go to that will teach you the basics of programming. Just go and get stuck in. It's not as complicated as people may make out that it is. It's like it's what I did as a kid was just like, okay, figure it out. Just start pulling it apart and putting it back together, and just like, seeing how it ticks, and it's just get stuck in. Once you kind of get a handle on how code works, it makes everything is just like, okay, this is just code. It's like whatever it might be, you can just go, it's all right, I can understand this, it's code, and you'll be fine.
And at one point, do you start seeing the Matrix things come down?
Oh, that kicks in at around 4 a.m. after after you've been up all night, like doing some crazy ass like game jam or something. And it's probably more sleep deprivation than anything else, but yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ming, for sharing all of your information with us and talking with us about your early days in the industry, getting caught playing SSX. So don't do that, chat. Don't do that.
Or at least have a good excuse for it.
Yeah, at least have a good research is always the good excuse, right?
Definitely.
But yes, thank you so much, Ming.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. And just as a quick reminder before we get on to our next guest, please, if you haven't already, head on over to our Discord. If you're not already there, we have a special We Are Hiring section where you can speak directly to Splash Damage team members right now. So there are 4 different channels that you can choose from to join in the conversation. I can speak general, technical, and production and creative. So definitely be sure to go check those out. It's our Into Games Discord. Splash Damage's junior role job role listings also will be going live tomorrow. So definitely head on over to Splash Damage's website to figure out more information on when it actually goes live, and just get yourself ready before you apply as well. This is a golden opportunity to figure out how to get in at Splash Damage. All right, so our next person that we have on is Joanna Mcnealy. Hello, Joanna. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, hi there.
Oh, hi.
So welcome to our humble abode.
Thank you, very kind.
You are a lighting artist at Splash Damage.
I am indeed.
Oh no! Give a brief description about what goes into being a lighting artist.
I've been a lighting artist at Splash for 2 years now, over 2 years now actually, and it's been a ride. I'm gonna skip over the way I'd usually describe it to my family, from sticking a light in a room to in-engine optimization somehow.
Yeah.
In a more poetic manner, I like to kind of think of it as kind of just adding light and life to the world that the artists and the designers make. I see it a lot as kind of a supporting role. Often the best lighting goes unnoticed because it feels like it fits in and it's natural and it helps with the game. I think it's a really good balance between capturing the mood versus the mechanics versus the visibility and playability of the game. And yeah, you just kind of, it's working a lot with the art director to bring the game to life, I guess.
No, I think it's so true. You can definitely see it where somebody's really thought and really put their heart into the lighting of a game, because it does just enhance the experience so much further.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great.
So like what led you to this role?
It definitely wasn't lighting.
Yeah.
I really knew I wanted to be in games, but I didn't know what to do. I really liked the narrative side, and I really liked graphics and composition, but also like fashion illustrations. So I was like, maybe I'll be a character concept artist. But I was just really unsure. So I joined it. That's the only reason I went to uni, because I wasn't sure. I didn't want the social life.
Yeah. I mean, we all do, don't we?
Yeah. But, so yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and I quickly transitioned from 2D to 3D after being shown Maya and UE4, and was like, oh, I can get on with this a lot better, a bit more technical minded than I was thinking. And then I really got into like texture creations with Substance, and then I got into just kind of lighting the textures. And I was like, that's kind of cool. That's really fun. I just get to present my own textures. And after uni, I was like, well, I just want to look at lighting and I want to learn lighting. So I learned it in my own time, and I picked a project that I was inspired by like my recent holidays. I was like, I can just try and recreate this. And I learned lighting through that. And after being told all throughout uni that you can't get a job immediately in lighting, you need experience in the industry doing other aspects. My first role in the industry was lighting.
Well, boom.
Yeah. So sucks to be all you who said that couldn't be possible. But
yeah,
well,
that's the thing, isn't it? Nothing's impossible, is it? And I think like from what you're saying, you did so much of the work like beforehand yourself by researching and studying like yourself.
Yeah, just finding out what clicked with me, is I'm a very much passion driven person. I have to do what I enjoy, which is why I got into games in the first place.
Yeah.
And lighting was just what I enjoyed the most. It kind of encapsulated all the stuff I knew in an area I didn't realize properly existed until well into university, because you can't start as a lighting artist. You can.
Yeah, you can. You can. But I think that is like a true thing, though. Like the fact that, you know, there's a lot of people who don't really know what they want to do in the industry, and like sort of figuring themselves out and figuring out where they fit. So like, what would you say if somebody were to want to become a lighting artist? Like what kind of skills would you say that they should like work on?
Yeah, I like to split it into 3. You can tell I did a uni presentation not too long ago because I have notes. But
good.
But I like to split it into aesthetic, function, and technical. And when I say there's 3 sections, it doesn't mean you have to be amazing in all of them. It's usually, you know, be good at certain parts of them, and your team will fill in the gaps. But yeah, like aesthetic, you kind of got the composition, the color theory, the subject presentation, basically kind of the concept art side of the environments and the characters and cinematics. And you got kind of the function, which is more the golden path stuff with leading the player in your objectives and point of interest. So kind of the design parts of that's an interactable. Can I see it? Is it obvious that I need to go there? And keeping up the Ludo narrative consistency. So what's the narrative of the game? Does the lighting fit? Like The Last of Us, does it fit it? Yes, it's gloomy, it's depressing, it's terrifying. It absolutely fits. And then you got the technical stuff, which is a part that I'm currently trying to improve myself. It's the systems, the optimizations, the pipeline buildings. Like I had no experience with this before applying, and now that's almost what I'm focused on at this point on my project. I've literally got 18 messages just now from my tech art lead, who's been sending me optimization tips and tricks. Like I say, your team fill in the gaps for the other stuff that you think that you're lacking in, but you know you want to improve in. But yeah, that's kind of like how I like to split up the lights.
I think that's really lovely as well to have somebody who can help you like to figure out like or help you improve yourself as well.
Yeah, I think Splash has been great for that. It's been my first job in the industry, and I've gone from junior to mid to trying to get the next roles of senior. Like I'm trying for it. I'm trying, and Splash is behind me all the way. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So would you say that like that's one of the things that you love the most about Splash?
Definitely. Like, I think the support just in Splash, even like from your manager, from your team, from other leads, from other projects, the friends you make, the groups that Shinzi mentioned, like it's the most kind of supportive community I've been a part of. And like from like career support, mental health, finance.
Yeah.
like it's just they're really good at it. And I know my mum is super happy that I have a job here because she can relax, that I can relax, and that I'm not stressing about how to live my life because I get people that can help me. And yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. But yeah, I mean, that sounds incredible. And I think that like that kind of support, especially when you're going into something where our parents, bless them, they try their best to understand, but they don't. But like it's
Yeah.
almost like that family aspect that you need around with your colleagues to just help you transition.
Yeah, it's such a community, and like working from home as well has been even more important because we were such a sociable company before, and it's like trying to keep that up digitally, virtually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, completely.
We all missed the weekly Friday night pubs, but yeah.
That is the thing. I mean, the amount of Jackbox parties we've done, like in my own personal family. Oh, Jackbox has made so much money out of me this year. My goodness. But yeah, I mean, to close us out, like, do you have any additional advice for anybody who's considering going into this profession?
Yeah, I saw a couple of comments earlier asking about if you come from other industries as well, and it's like, yeah, as long as you've got a passion for games, we're going to listen to you. If you've got the portfolio that supports it, we're going to listen to you. I do a lot of interviews, and it's always comes down to like, UE4 and now UE5 are such impressive engines that they can do a lot of it. So we're not looking for what that can do, say with RTX, we're looking at what you can bring extra, what thought into the aesthetic, function, technical side, whatever you want, as long as you've done something that's just not being like, I stuck a light in a room and it looks really good in UE5, which is lovely, don't get me wrong, but we want to see your exploration into the lighting. Yeah,
completely. And so yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Joanna, for sharing all of your information, your story with us. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just as another last reminder before we get on to our last guest, you can head on over to our Discord or Into Games Discord to chat with a lot of the Splash Damage team in the We Are Hiring section. There are 4 different channels, 4 that you can choose from in order to get advice. So they are technical, creative, production, and general, where you can just ask like sort of more about the application process and any other things that don't fit into those categories. Splash Damages junior role listings will go up tomorrow. So definitely use this opportunity to go on Discord and ask all the questions that you need to ask to make sure that you are prepared. So now, without further ado, here's our last guest, Mr. Neil Alfonso. Hi, and welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Oh, absolutely. How are you doing?
All right. Glad it's the end of the day, but
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, I can feel you. The heat is very, very intense. Especially.
I'm missing air conditioning right now, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Actually, I haven't had air conditioning in about 9 years. 9 years. I miss it. I really miss it, honestly. But anyways, games. Yeah, so you are the studio creative director. Can you give a brief description about what your job entails?
Well, I can try.
Attempt.
I mean, creative director is an interesting title because it kind of differs studio to studio. Maybe not massively, but at Splash, what it really is you have the responsibility really for the entirety of the player experience, meeting quality and working with every sort of other lead and director in the team to deliver that, right? So you're trying to keep them on the same page with the vision that they're trying to create, and solve problems for them, so you're making the best game possible. So what the studio means on that is that I work with each of those creative directors and leadership teams really to, a way I put it all too often is to help them avoid the many, many mistakes that I've made, and just to support them really in trying to make all our games as good as possible, and a lot of the tools and tricks that I've learned over the years of doing that at Splash. It's a lot of leveraging all the disciplines, right? So you've got to be able to talk to artists, to programmers, to point out Ming and Joanna, right? You've got to be able to get them all on the same page to deliver something cohesive that is just a well-rounded player experience.
Yeah, you're kind of like the knight. You're the knight leading the people to glory.
Well, hopefully you're actually behind them, and like they think they're the ones like actually leading the charge, right? There's different styles, right? You can have there's the auteur model, which there's some in the industry are, but that's really kind of going away now because of the scale of games. People have to be much more, a word we use a lot is autonomous, and make decisions at their level. So rather than the way I look at it is, rather than giving the team like my creative vision, it's to enable theirs and just get it on the same guardrails, so that it's something that we're all excited about.
Completely. And then what was your path into this role?
Wow. Okay, that's how long do we have? Okay,
all the time you need. Get the popcorn.
Well, no, let me start. So I was always up around computers and therefore games growing up. I'm thinking of how I was going to answer this. I think it was actually it played into it that I wasn't really, like, my parents never liked me playing games. My sister and I had to like save up our own money to get our first like NES and stuff. We made us quite rebellious in a lot of ways. When I went to university, that was, as you might tell from like the gray in my beard, there wasn't formal game development education. I ended up studying radio, television, film. That's what I got my bachelor's in, which involved a lot of computers. And I based a lot of the projects that I did on games, but it wasn't games development. So I was actually at a university. I was actually working in special effects and editing for film and television. And I actually realized that I could probably make it in games, and it was a much more dynamic and evolving field. Which, good job, Neil. You were right back then. With hindsight, So I decided to make a switch. I don't know. This might be an interesting story for those listening, but I mean, it was interesting for me because I didn't have a portfolio to speak of, and a really common mistake that I certainly made was I just kind of put everything that I'd done together and would send it out. And looking back on how that would look, I was just completely all over the place. Like I had animation, I had some designs, I had UI, I had all sorts of stuff. And generally, studios are looking for something a bit more specialized, right? I would have, like, with hindsight, I would have taken little bits and pieces of that and focused on what I really wanted to do. But I appreciate, there's only so much that early on, which is part of like the path that I'm talking about. So I ended up focusing on level design, in no small part because somebody sent me a job posting and they were like, you could do this. This was a friend that I'd met through an online art forum, actually. And I was like, you think? I'm like, oh, okay. I applied. And what happened is I didn't have a portfolio because I had not been like let's forget all that stuff that I'd said, because I was applying for a level design job. I didn't have a level design portfolio. And I actually said to the person that when I was submitting this, like, listen, whether I hear anything or not, I'm not working right now. I will send you something in 2 weeks. So here's my CV, resume. And I didn't hear anything back, but I sent something in 2 weeks, and I actually kept doing that. And the person who was the lead level designer who was hiring, he was engaging with me. He's, just giving me little pointers, being very kind with how awful I was. But well, we joked about it years later. Like, we're still friends. He's been my mentor, and I did some really, really ridiculous things, but I didn't know, right? And the point was,
it's all growing.
He saw that. He saw the effort. He saw me trying, and eventually I got the job, which was awesome, because it happened to be the first Splinter Cell game, which is a pretty good first job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's better to be lucky than good,
Yeah. But I think that is the thing, like, just keeping at it. And it's sort of with what Cynthia was saying, like, early on, like, it's the personality, it's you that like sort of almost drives your application as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have to take every opportunity you can, because there's a lot that's out of your control. I mean, that's the nature of the universe, to not get too philosophical about it, but you can put yourself in the best position possible, and give yourself a chance for the stars to align, for lack of a better term. But yeah, so it made it to where I'm an entry level designer. My next job, I ended up getting thrown into a lead position for the first time. Meaning, we talk about, like, kind of what Ming was talking about earlier, where you're doing management, and having to just lead a team for the first time. And that was because I'd been on Splinter Cell, I'd been on a successful project, and I had that experience. To be honest, that nearly killed me. And I'm not exaggerating, because what had happened there is I had the highest workload of anybody in the team in terms of what I was delivering, and then I was also managing the department. And I was you're invincible when you're younger, until it breaks. But I would spend my 9 to 5 managing, and then would do all my work in the evenings. And made that for about a year and a half. But so that's basically how I got my first taste of being lead. I backed away from that. I didn't want to do that. So in my next job, and so I went back to level design. And eventually, because I'd had that lead experience, I found my way back into it. And then eventually, when I ended up at Splash Damage, I started as the lead level designer on Brink, which was awesome, because the level design I started with here, which is pretty rare, they were all basically veterans. And I didn't have to tell them what to do at all. And not that you tell them what to do. I didn't, they didn't need my guidance.
Yeah.
They just needed their problem solved, and things moved out of their way. So that was really awesome. And then, so this was Brink, and towards the end of Brink, one of the things that traditionally happens is our creative director at the time started working on the next project we were going to do. And what we often have is somebody else from the team will step up and see the project out, because it's more about the decisions aren't about what the thing it should be. It's almost like triage about what's the most important thing to get out in the end. And so that's how I became a design lead, which is really in a lot of ways similar to creative director. It just more focused on game design than being holistic. So then that essentially just kept snowballing, and I just kept moving up in terms of managing bigger projects and bigger teams. And that has been the path. It certainly wasn't what I thought it would be at the start. And another thing I should probably call out is looking back all those years ago, I never ever would have thought that I would have liked management at all. I never considered myself a leader, and I thought I just want to do my own thing and be away from people, to be honest. But I see it completely opposite now. It's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, and that just happens, isn't it? It's something that you just feel out, like, and that could go for anything, leading and not leading. Like, it's just something that you just can feel out as you go along. And so like with your role as well, like what does a normal day look like for you?
Meetings, and more meetings.
All the meetings.
It's a lot of conversations. If I am actually designing anything, then it means I failed. If I'm having to do the work that creative directors or art directors or tech directors should be doing, I'm not, that's bad. I should be supporting them to get that knowledge so they can do it, so they can stand on their own 2 feet and do it. So it's a lot of working with the leadership teams. It's a lot of talking to our studio management to get the bigger picture of what's going on. I mean, like 90% of it is communication, right? It's just facilitating that flow and trying to find wins. I would say that, like, solve problems that just often there are some really simple solutions that people are just blind to. And that's the sort of thing that I should be surfacing. I appreciate that's not very tangible, but it's one of those things where somebody will come to you with a problem, and you try to solve it for them, and somebody else will have a similar problem or has solved a similar problem, and you can start connecting those dots for people and just finding solutions all over the place.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think that that's like something, if you had like a gamer textbook, you'd be able to find like case studies of just like, all right, well, they did it this way and they did it this way, and this is how we'll come together.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, it's the things I help teams a lot with are communication, as I mentioned. It's also ways to communicate the vision for what the game's supposed to be, so everyone has that shared understanding, which has been a lot more difficult with us all being remote.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because there are the sort of common things, and I suppose the one I forgot is the best thing. Well, one of the best things. I like helping people more, to be honest. But a real treat is just to be able to review people's work, and call out what they're doing really well. Share that with the other teams, for example, as well. Like this they've really nailed this thing here. Have a conversation, see what they did. Or support them, right? If something is not meeting the quality standard, find out why, get them the support they need, solve the problems for them. So yeah, that's when it comes out in the games, that's a big thing. So to what Ming said as well, it's one of the reasons that a lot of us do what we do is to see when players experience it. It's basically it's like it's a chemical, right? It's basically oxytocin, right? We get very good vibes from people enjoying our work, and I won't talk about when they don't enjoy our work, but anyway, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Should have like a little tank, like this is where we're at right now, everyone. Yay.
Well, I'm one of the people that reads the comments.
Oh yeah, that's a fun job.
I think. Sorry, did I fix it?
Yeah, I think so. I thought there was something with my headphones, but no, it's that you sound perfect now.
No, I accidentally muted myself. COVID bingo card. There you go.
Yeah, you just have to turn yourself into a potato now. We are all set. Or me. I could turn myself into. I feel like a baked potato.
Cat. I'm not a cat.
Oh yeah, you're not a cat. I know, that was so great. But yeah, so I mean, from your amazing career so far, like, what would you say is one of your career highlights?
That is a really difficult question because it's a wow. There's so many ways to look at it. I mean, I tend to look at the when the people. Now I look at the people who I've mentored. When they do well, it's the most rewarding for me. The creative directors at the studio that I've hired. It has been the games, watching people play the games. Be that I've mentioned some of the things that I worked on, and that that is really important. But then you kind of also realize how much of it is really out of your control. Like you can make a great game that doesn't do very well. For example, right? If you care about it doing well, be that critically, be that commercially, those things are to a degree out of your control. But yeah, it's the growth of the people, to be honest, and that's it's similarly those, like, my biggest failures are when I've let people down. I've done things as a developer I'm not proud of. I talked about Splinter Cell. Like there's I didn't make a cinematic skippable, and I still kick myself for it like 20
Aw.
years later. But it's the ones that stick with me is when I've let people down. So that's probably the big ones, right? It's when teams and individuals succeed. It's in a way, it's actually really similar to watching players find enjoyment, right? It's very it's very similar to a lot of game design where your job is for somebody to have fun, right?
Yeah.
And for them to feel success and grow because of it. So when you see that in reality and all that comes along with it, it's particularly strong.
Well, I love that your story is kind of like full circle, because when you were reaching out initially to people and you found you're a mentor and now being a mentor to other people, like that's a really lovely, a really lovely thing. And like, I guess that's the thing that will make our industry so great, is to just have people passing it on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, however you want to look at it, right? It's that this is a case in point. Whether it's like not to go too psychological about it, whether it's reciprocity and right, us frankly doing unto others sort of thing,
As
right?
you would do, yeah.
That's a human urge, but it's also, it could be good karma, right? I just kind of believe that if you've got to act on it, it doesn't just happen.
Yeah, completely. And to close us out, do you have any advice for somebody who's looking to explore this type of profession?
Run? No. Okay, so it's an interesting one, because I do get asked this every now and then, and it's weird for me because I one of the key positions on a development team tends to be the creative director or game director. So that's what people set their sights on. I didn't. I kind of took it more in the flow. So that would be a bit of my advice, right? I was just always up for another challenge because I like learning, and I would say Splash Damage is always a place that has given me more rope to hang myself. I'm a sucker for it, honestly. So I've always taken on challenges, and with the benefit of hindsight, a lot of people, like, one of the things I ask when I ask them that their aspiration, and they say something like creative or like director or lead, I ask why. Because if they want control, or to be more dark about it, power, I think it's really important for people to realize that it doesn't really come from your title. It comes from trust. Trust of the team that you're working with, and trust in the organization where you are. And that's the way you have to approach things, right? Like nobody just hands it to you, right? And the thing about being a leader, I mentioned that I'm not a born leader, I never considered myself as such. It's actually more that I realized later that I'm just a really poor follower. I don't follow anything, and then people started following me, and then you've got a duty of care to them, right? If that makes sense. So you build trust, and then things just get bigger and bigger in a good way, right? And that's kind of how it should be. So I should say something more substantive there. Just realize that you can always be learning, like always, right? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Knowledge begins with knowing you know nothing. There's always more to learn, more to take on, and you have to work with everyone around you and solve their problems. And that's because that's what you can do as a team will always outweigh what you can do as an individual.
Completely. Oh, well, thank you so much, Neil, for sharing your story, sharing
No problem.
all of your wonderful advice. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No worries. It was fun.
All right. That's it, everyone. So just one final reminder. I know I said I was the last reminder, but head on over to the Discord, please, if you want any more information, want to talk to some of the team at Splash Damage. They are talking right now in the 4 different sections: technical, creative, production, and general. So be sure to take advantage of this opportunity before you apply tomorrow when those job listings go live. You got to work at this beautiful company. Just as a final thank you so much to our speakers, Cinzia, Ming, Joanna, and Neil. Thank you all so much again. Thank you so much, Splash Damage team, who have been busy answering all your questions on Discord questions. And thank you for watching. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at IntoGamesHQ for all game career related news, advice, and opportunities. And as I was about to like pitch more Discord, and I was just like, I've already pitched Discord. But we hope that this event has inspired you to go out and get your dream job. Make sure you check out all the current job roles available at Splash Damage. And if you want a job in games, what are you waiting for? Thank you so much again. Happy Pride Month, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.